Have you heard the news? It's getting lots of rave reviews. A good time is waiting just for you at Sister Spokesman. Girl, won't you send the facts? Drop on by, grab a drink and relax. Bring your business cards and we'll chat at Sister Spokesman.
My name is Obayuwana. I'm the Director of Business Development and Lending at NEON. NEON stands for Northside Economic Opportunity Network. What we do is provide business development services to entrepreneurs such as yourself and small businesses for the purpose of growing wealth and also to develop a viable and sustaining community, which is Northside Community.
So I'm Kenya McKnight, a Hive president, founder of the Black Women's Wealth Alliance, and we provide wealth education and asset building for Black women through our Home Buyers Club, our Money Club, and our Business Club.
Hello, I'm Sean McClary with the U.S. Small Business Administration. So we're a federal agency, so I'm the federal employee on the panel today. We do a variety of things. We have lending programs to help fund and support small businesses. We do some business counseling, some economic development through working with organizations like NEON. We also do disaster assistance, and my specialty is in government contracting, and including federal certifications and bonding programs.
We got NEON here. We got the Black Women's Alliance, Black Women's Wealth Alliance here, and then we also have SBA, which is Small Business Administration. So we've got three wonderful organizations that are here that are going to talk today about how to be a sustainable small business. So listen up, vendors, and then at the end of our discussion, I'm going to add a little bit of my expertise to working with small businesses and small vendors, I should say, on a monthly basis here at Sister Spokesman. But I got these folks here today because they are the real experts. So let's start with Ms. Kenya. I always like to begin with the ladies first. After I ask a few questions, it's just to get the audience engaged. I definitely want you to be thinking about your questions, audience and vendors, so that once we get through a couple of these to get it going, I want you to jump right in. If you got questions in the meantime, just raise your hand. So Kenya, tell us, what is the procurement? Because you work a lot with people with procurement. And what is procurement, and why should that matter to the businesses or people that are trying to start a business?
So Sean's going to answer that too. We're both here to talk a little bit about procurement, but basically, I guess in a nutshell, it is the contracting process of selling and purchasing goods and services, right? Through systems. I guess that's how I would explain it. So it happens through government, it happens through corporations, it happens through nonprofits, and it also happens from business to business. It's like when you buy your products, right? You're buying it from another source, right? And that's an exchange of goods and services, right? So you're purchasing products from another company. And basically that's how procurement works, except for, like, in this context that I want to talk about today is really the state of Minnesota, and the Department of Administration is here as well, which is great, so you can follow up with them afterwards. But the state of Minnesota has a little bit more than a $2 billion, spending budget for goods and services that they purchase. And they contract out and buy these goods and services from a range of different companies, individuals, through a process that's called procurement, okay? And so that's what it is. If that makes sense, that's how I would explain it. Again, the process by which goods and services are exchanged, purchased, etc. Why it's important is because while it has improved, and the Department of Administration can talk to you a little bit more about this, but up until about, I think, 2010, of that $2 billion, African Americans at one point had only received less than 200,000 of that. I said $2 billion spending budget on goods and services in the state of Minnesota, a little bit more than $2 billion. And up until 2010, African Americans had only gotten less than 200,000. That's right. And so why that's important?
Do we know why that is, or do we know why that? Do we just get that small amount?
Well, there's a number of factors, and I know that there's new studies being done now that's looking at the procurement across not only the state but Met Council, the cities, etc. So they're looking deeper into it. But most times, at least from what I understand, we know that there's a structural racism. We understand that people buy from who they're used to, who they have relationships with, that sort of a thing. But then there's also the disparity of information. How many people knew, by show of hands, that the state of Minnesota even had a $2 billion spending budget? Can you raise your hand if you knew that before now?
So nobody in this room knew that the state of Minnesota was giving away that kind of money. Not one. We got one entrepreneur.
And that's not a negative thing.
No.
All that means is that information doesn't always transfer.
I think it's negative from the state's
I'm
perspective.
saying it's not negative.
Not you.
Yeah.
But they got to do a better job at getting that information out there.
I want us to know that it's not negative.
That's
for
right.
Us,
That's
what
right.
I'm saying.
That's
that
right.
You don't necessarily know, but it definitely is a negative thing for the state.
It is, and I ain't picking on you. Take that back to your boss. And I'm gonna be talking to him too. Why?
So that's what we're gonna get into today. That's what we're gonna talk a little bit about. How do you access that opportunity? I'm glad the state is here so you can follow up directly. But that's what procurement is, and the plainest way that I can explain it, and why it's important is because there's money to be made, right? Everybody in here has something to offer, right? Right? A lot of entrepreneurs. And the state might be also interested in buying their services. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. I don't want to take up the...
That's okay, but you did say Sean was going to add a little to that. So Sean, what were you adding to the procurement conversation?
I think a lot of it was really covered there. The one thing I hope to bring today is to let you know that there are partners out here, resource providers and people that are ready to help. Sorry, I'll get this a little closer. Yeah. So there's a lot of resource partners that we have in the Twin Cities and in the greater Minnesota area that can really help to help you navigate that procurement field and get to know your government buyers and what they're looking for, how to market to them. The whole works. There's a lot of efforts. Sheila Scott over here with the Department of Admin is a fantastic resource. The team that she's on is doing all kinds of outreach, really getting the word out, and get to know these people because they're very, very. They have a lot of good things to do for you.
So in the procurement, here's what I want to point out, and particularly for Black women. So that industry is often framed as professional services, right? Where you're, providing your professional services and selling goods and products. And the way this looks for Black women across America is that, well, let me just say this. The professional service industry is the #1 type of businesses that white women hold. And they have about 1 million firms across this country that's grossing more than $600 billion a year, okay? And a lot of that money comes from these processes through procurement, okay? Through dollars, through contracts, goods and services. Black women have about 460,000 firms in the professional services sector and probably gross less than $60 billion a year in the industry. So those numbers again was white women have about 1 million firms in the professional industry sector, right? Professional service sector, grossing a little more than $600 billion a year, right? Black women have about 460,000 professional services firms and gross a little less than $60 billion a year. What does that mean? What I'm trying to show you is that the businesses that these white women have are also aligned with where the money is in the professional services industry through processes like procurement, where they're doing contracts, And they have about 1 million firms in that area, which is great. That works for them. And my goal is to help make that work for us as well. Because we just talked about how there's $2 billion that the state has. There's less than 1 million of us here. You mean something we can't all get a meal ticket? we can't all grab a few 100,000 or something like that. So the question becomes, at least what we're focused on, the Black Women's Wealth Alliance, is how do we begin to create or align the businesses that we have with the services that the state of Minnesota purchases, right? And then how do we build our capacity as business owners, right, to be able to handle the business that we're seeking, right? To be able to leverage those resources for ourselves. And so white women have figured that out for themselves, and we know that they have a whole other infrastructure and head start and support in other ways. But we certainly are capable of having and doing those things for ourselves as well, and utilizing folks like Sean, the state, and other folks to make sure that we're supported in those areas. So I just wanted to make sure that we understood when we talk about women-owned businesses, what that really means when it comes to us and other folks, right? This is this broad stroke. We're not faring well the same. And so our goal is to make sure that we put in our bid in place for Black women to do well, right? Because we have a lot of responsibility, and we absolutely need to make money to be able to take care of ourselves and our families. So that's it.
Neon, at this point, we are building our loan portfolio. In the past, we usually refer clients that want capital to either NDC or MCCD or MIDA or CRF. But we found that many of these organizations require a larger capital, a larger loan amount, to satisfy the clients. Usually, some of them require a minimum of 25,000, some 50,000. And we know that from our experience on the north side that many a times small businesses such as yourself or entrepreneurs require far less than that amount, to start. We've done loans as little as $600, for people who really need it and need to move forward, either to fulfill a contract or either to meet an order that has been placed, whether it's food or t-shirt supply or whatever. So we do that. But there are other things too that can be done to prepare yourself to be able to borrow. Traditional banking is not necessarily for us, and it's not necessarily for small businesses. So what we have done is to create an environment to fill a gap of that lending. But one of the things that you have to do to prepare yourself is, one, take a look at your credit. There are three basic things that a lender will require, from a borrower. Three basic questions. One, can you pay back? Two, will you pay back? Three, what if you don't pay back? If you can answer those three questions to their satisfaction, you will get a loan any day. But we know that there are gaps in our community. We have a trust gap. We don't trust them, they don't trust us. I'm talking of traditional banks now. So what we want to be able to do, or what Neon is trying to do, is to make sure that we at least answer two of those questions. As far as for our in-house lending, we don't look at credit. We don't care about credit. We need you to be able to explain what happened and hopefully to know what to avoid the next time around. We want to make sure that whatever you have on your credit will not hamper the loan that we are giving you in terms of our position. In other words, if you have a judgment or anything that is public record, we want it to be taken care of. But if you have collections, if you have medical collections or whatever, yes, we'll work with you to see how we can, mitigate that, how we can avoid you, being a judgment or whatever. So we can make arrangement with you, we'll work with you, make arrangement with the collector, and work with ways that you can avoid ruining your credit any further. But we don't look at the credit score. Now, it's important that when you go into business, one of the key issues that we have to have is separation of your business from your personal. You know, it's very, very important that you maintain a banking record, a banking relationship with a bank. And with a bank doesn't mean a bank that is convenient to you. It doesn't mean a bank that have tons of ATM around every corner. It means the banks that are willing to work with a small business. And generally we find that to be credit unions, we find that to be small, small banks. I won't name some of the banks, but there are banks that are more amenable to working with small businesses. So we have to shop for those kind of stuff. The other thing too is that when you are going to borrow money, be sure that you know what resources you need and where are you going to get it. So there are three ways you can get it. You can either be from your savings, or at least part of it be from your savings. You always have to have a skin in the game. Nobody's going to loan you 100%, whether it's me or anybody is going to give you 100%. You have to borrow, you have to earn it. And you also have to be able to demonstrate that you're able to pay that back. And what we do at Neon is that we put you through that process. We don't just take applications and say, okay, we are going to process, we'll let you know what we decide. We work with you every step of the way. We work with your credit, we work with you doing your cash flow projections, we work with you doing your sales projections. I have some clients in here, Neon has some clients here, I see a lot of faces, and they've been through some of these. And that's one of the things that you have to do, so that when you apply before any lender, you say, this is what I need. Don't borrow more than what you need, because a lot of times somebody says, well, my minimum loan is $10,000. Don't borrow $10,000 if you don't need $10,000. We've also realized that many people borrow money, a loan, but what they really need is a cash flow. What they need is a line of credit, so that when that opportunity presents itself, if you're having to go out to go buy a product and you see that something has a very good price, you'll be able to buy it right away. But if you have to go to the bank and file an application and wait for a month for decision, you have missed that opportunity. And also, if you borrow money that you don't need right away, guess what? You are using the loan that you borrow to service the debt itself. Because if you don't need it, it's sitting in your account. You have to make your monthly payment 30 days after you get the loan. And you have not used that money. You leverage the money that you have to make more money. So you don't do it to just put on your account. So Neon is looking at how can we create a line of credit, whether it's 1,000, 2,000, to be able to have you have a positive cash flow in your business, be able to go to the market and buy what you need to buy, sell it, and pay a little at a time. And also, when you don't need it, it's sitting there, it doesn't cost you any money, while you have it, but you have access at any time that you want it. I would like to touch a little bit on being able to buy from, or being able to sell, do business with government. Now, even though there are disparities as Kenya has mentioned, but we also need to be able to put ourselves in a position to participate. If at that point we don't get it, we've done everything right, then we can at least raise our voice a little bit more. One of the things that they do to be able to participate with selling to the government is that you have to be certified. There are several ways you can be certified to do with the state or the federal government. There is what they call DBE, Disadvantaged Business Enterprise. What that is that once you certify, it doesn't cost you money to certify. Once you certify with them, based on what you say your business is, or what services or product you can render, they have it on a database, and whenever they want to buy, they send you an invitation to be able to bid for that contract. So it's important that we do that. Neon provide that service. We help a lot of people, to be certified. Besides the DBE, we also have the the county city of Minneapolis, city of St. Paul, Ramsey County, and Hennepin County. They have what they call CERT, C-E-R-T. And if you are certified with them, if you have that license, again, it doesn't cost you any money. There's a process you go through, and we can walk you through that. Once you are in there, you are able to sell products, to them. Some of my clients here now are able to participate on the Super Bowl coming because they went through that process of being certified and they got contract. If Wendy doesn't mind, Wendy is one that is participating. She sells food. She has a restaurant. She does catering. So it's not only contract. It's not only construction. It's not only services, but food service as well can sell to the government. She has a booth at the Super Bowl now where she'll be able to sell her food, which is delicious, by the way. And so those are some of the things that we have to do. But if you are not certified, she would not have had that opportunity. She was not certified because they are not, they don't send it out to everybody. Only those who are certified. There's also what they call a CERT, Section 3. Section 3 is usually for housing, public housing. Somebody has to clean those apartments when people move out. Somebody has to do the landscaping. Somebody has to remove snow. These are opportunities that we have to be able to provide services to the government. And again, if you are not certified in Section 3, you cannot bid for this, for this type of job. So, and NEON is there, and we know the process, and we can help you navigate the process of getting certified. And also, we keep part of our market-based services that we keep you informed of what is coming down the pipeline, because we are very in tune with what projects are coming as far as 2019. If you are in construction, we know what is in the pipeline, and you can start to prepare yourself, for that.
To add to what he was saying about DBE and CERT and some of the other type of certifications that are available, the federal government also does a couple of different certifications for working with federal agencies. And they have goals that are based around this. So when we talk about when the state of Minnesota has a certain dollar amount of spend and they hit such a low mark, the federal government has a similar situation. They have a goal of 23% of all of their spend should go to small businesses. Within that 23%, 5 should go to SDB. SDB is a small disadvantaged business. It's very similar to what the DBE program is at the state level. Within the SDBs, there's 8 A's. Outside of that, there's a woman-owned small business goal of 5%. And that the SDB goal is 5% nationally also. There's service-disabled veteran-owned small businesses, and then there's hub zone businesses. Hub zones are based on, they're place-based, and they look at census figures and unemployment data, and they're updated regularly. So if an area has low unemployment or high unemployment and low income, it can be considered a hub zone, and that gives you an additional certification for working with the federal government. The way the federal government deals with these certifications is they can identify a certain segment of the population that they want to increase their business exposure with, and they can set aside contracts for those groups. So if they need to increase the number of women-owned small businesses that they're working with, they can set aside a contract so that it can only be competed on by women-owned small businesses, or SDBs for minority-owned businesses, or hub zone or veteran-owned, whatever the case may be. So those set-asides are really important in getting those contracts in the hands of the small businesses that we're talking about today. One important thing as you're going through this process is letting those contracting officers know. I can talk to any of you about this at any time too. Letting them know that you're there and that you can do the work, that you have the capabilities. Once they know that there are 2 or more businesses that can perform a contract, then they can set it aside for that group. So if they put out a request for market research and say, we've got a bridge to build, who can do this? And they get a notice from a service-disabled veteran-owned small business, maybe 3 SDBs and a couple of women-owned small businesses, then they can decide, we can set it aside and restrict it to just those groups. So by doing that, it helps to steer those contracts into those set-aside programs. So that can be very important. Now that I've gone off on that little bit of a tangent, so the way you really get going on these certifications, like Stephen was saying, NEON is one of the groups that can help you with this stuff. At the state of Minnesota, now we have the Procurement Technical Assistance Center, which is with PTAC, which is with the state of Minnesota. They used to be with MEDA, but they've switched over. They're technical experts. They can work with all of the different level of certifications. They can help you with the processes, and they can also help you with understanding the bidding processes and the whole procurement contracting process. They're very well versed. It's a great network, and they're great friends to make.
Tom, tell me that again. Mention that again.
That's the PTAC, Procurement Technical Assistance Center, and Sheila has flyers over at her table with some contact information about them, so it's really good to have. There's other organizations that the SBA helps to support too, the Small Business Development Centers. We have the SBDCs located throughout the state that can help you with this kind of information too. as well as just your general business development needs. You need help writing a business plan, things like that, they can help you out. We also fund SCORE, which is basically a group of counselors that work for free. We fund them, and they will assign a counselor, an individual counselor to you to help you identify your business development needs and solve them. So that can be very helpful. There's another organization called Legal Corp. They can provide some free legal advice. They do legal workshops. Stephen mentioned the St. Paul CERT program. They do a regular monthly meetup to help people go through the CERT process. And usually Legal Corps is there to provide that legal clinic advice too. So it's something that's really very helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of where I go from there.
Okay, great. Now let's try to talk a little bit about the businesses that are here. So we have small businesses that are here that maybe have purchased some of their products from New York. That they went to New York and they decided they wanted to start a little small business. How do they go from being a vendor at Sister Spokesman to actually opening up a store and really taking that business to the next level? What's the best method to go from here to there?
So I want to give it to Stephen, but I want to add to the financing, the money. First of all, you should check out Women's Venture. They do have a loan program, a new one that is not really so rigid and based on your credit. So Yolanda is one of my mentors and first trainers who really helped me in my knowledge in this industry years ago. She's really dope. So make sure you stop by and check out what their new loan program is. I think it's $10,000 or less, and it isn't really based on your credit. So check them out. The other thing is that we have a set money club where we're putting our own money together to finance our own businesses. And so we have 24 women that's a part of 2 clubs. And these are things that you can do yourself as well, right? Sometimes we have it right among ourselves to take care of what we need for ourselves. And so I encourage all of you to start or join money clubs where you're putting money together every month to take care of the things that you want and need to do for yourselves. So that's what we decided to do in our network, and you're welcome to join us as well. The other thing I wanted to tell you about is that there is, yes, certification is part of the process for procurement, but you can be a part of it without being certified, if you will, okay? The state of Minnesota, and make sure you stop by and talk to them about their SWIFT program, which is just about being registered in their system, which does give you access to what they call, the program they call Equity Connect, okay? And this Equity Connect allows for the state of Minnesota to contract with you for $25,000 or less, although you are not a certified vendor, okay? So what that means is that you have to build relationships with the people who work in the departments, right? The department head and the people who work in the departments, because these are the folks who are deciding where to spend the money for the department. And I'm registered, we're registered in their SWIFT program. We've been able to do some contracting with them. And what does that look like? Well, that's about having them sponsor an event or something. You know, they might hire somebody as a photographer, they might need a caterer. You don't have to be a part of their certification program to access at least $25,000. The certification program is important, and that's the ultimate goal, but it also is a process. And so I just want you to know that there's a way to access at least up to $25,000 through what they call Equity Connect, and that's available now, okay? And so Minneapolis also has what they call the Target Business Program. Target Market, or just Target Market, right? You don't have to be registered as a certified vendor, but it also gives you access to money, okay? So there's what they do in the process, and there's always what they do informally, and that's just the way it is. But it all operates on relationships. So it's about understanding where you want to be, figuring out who works where, building those relationships, and letting people, and networking. And in fact, the state of Minnesota does networking opportunities where you can meet these people. Okay, everybody else, all these things we talked about, that's great, but this is where you can get some of that without going through 500 million processes. Just want you to know that, okay? And so that's what's available now. SWIFT, Equity Connect, Target Market Program, Women's Venture, and then our Set Money Club.
And then also the Black Women's Alliance, because if they come through the Black Women's Alliance, Kenya will make sure you're hooked up to them to see resources that she's already established relationships with, and that's an important thing, because we all, I'm sure that everybody here knows the importance in the word relationship. Anybody don't quite understand that? Does anybody not understand why it's important to have a relationship with people? Good. So everybody knows the importance in the relationships. The trick is who to have that relationship with.
That's right.
Because sometimes you can be all buddy-buddy thinking that you're building a relationship, and it's what they call a gatekeeper. That person is there to keep you from going one step further than where you're at, and you're being their buddy. So that is a waste of time. So it's important that you establish relationships with people that already have relationships and let them transfer that relationship to you. Save yourself the time.